I introduced my affair partner to my husband and his reaction shocked me. The first time I saw Jake was on a sweltering June afternoon. The air hung heavy with humidity, practically begging everyone in New York City to stay inside with the AC on full blast. But I was out there, alone at a coffee shop on 42nd, killing time between work meetings. I wasn't expecting anything or anyone, just a few minutes of peace. But he walked in, and from the moment our eyes met, everything felt different. There was something magnetic about him, a confidence that made him impossible to ignore. And I could tell he knew it, too. His eyes met mine, lingering a beat too long to be casual. And then he gave a small smile that I felt down to my bones. We started chatting as if we were old friends who hadn't seen each other in ages. There was no pretense, no small talk. Within minutes, we were deep into a conversation about life, ambitions, dreams, regrets, the kind of conversation that only happens with people you feel an instant connection to. And before I even had time to second-guess myself, we exchanged numbers. I was married, and so was he. But there was an understanding in our silence about that fact. As I walked away, I felt exhilarated in a way I hadn't in years. I loved Alex, my husband, but our marriage had settled into a pattern. I couldn't pinpoint when it happened, but somewhere along the line, we'd become roommates more than lovers. The passion we once had felt like a distant memory, replaced by routines, bills, and conversations that barely scratched the surface. We'd become partners in logistics rather than in life. I didn't know if he noticed or if he was content with things as they were. But for me, that day with Jake was a reminder of something I'd forgotten, a longing I hadn't realized was still there. Jake and I began meeting casually after that. We'd have lunch here and there, quick coffee runs. Nothing that felt out of place in the context of the city. But as time passed, our connection deepened, moving beyond innocent companionship. There was a spark, an undeniable chemistry that neither of us could ignore. Every conversation, every shared laugh felt electric. And it wasn't long before we both acknowledged the truth: we weren't just friends. But that truth came with guilt, too. A gnawing feeling that I was betraying Alex in ways that words couldn't describe. One evening, after months of sneaking around, Jake looked at me over the rim of his wine glass, his face more serious than I'd ever seen it. "We need to talk about this," he said, his voice steady but filled with a sadness I couldn't ignore. "What do you mean?" I asked, already feeling the lump forming in my throat. "This," he said, gesturing between us. "I can't keep doing this, hiding, sneaking around. It's not fair to you, to me, or to your husband." He was right. Of course. We were too far in to pretend this was something casual. Yet the thought of ending things felt unbearable. I was torn between my love for Alex, a man who had been my best friend and my partner for over a decade, and this connection with Jake, which had reignited a part of me I thought was long gone. But Jake wasn't the only one who felt the weight of our situation. The strain of living a double life had begun to wear on me, too. I'd catch myself lying to Alex with ease, deflecting questions about late nights at work, and offering vague excuses when I'd disappear for hours at a time. It hurt, and it was exhausting. Yet, each time I considered telling him the truth, fear paralyzed me. I couldn't bear the thought of hurting him, of seeing the disappointment in his eyes. Then, one night, the choice was taken from me. Alex had been distant lately, and I couldn't shake the feeling that he knew something. I noticed him glancing at me differently, as if he were studying me, searching for something. That night, after dinner, he put down his fork and looked at me with a calmness that was both comforting and terrifying. "Liz," he said, "we need to talk." My stomach twisted. I nodded, bracing myself for whatever was coming. "Are you happy?" he asked, his voice soft, almost pleading. I hesitated. It felt like a trap. But there was a kindness in his eyes that reassured me. I don't know," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. "I know about Jake." The world stopped. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear anything else. My first instinct was to deny it, to explain it away. But I couldn't bring myself to lie anymore. I simply nodded, feeling a wave of shame wash over me. "I've suspected for a while," he continued. "But I wanted to give you the chance to tell me." I felt tears welling up. But he reached across the table and took my hand. His touch gentle. "Do you love him?" he asked. The question felt like a punch to the gut. "I don't know," I whispered, my voice breaking. "It's different, Alex. He makes me feel alive in a way I haven't felt in years." He nodded, absorbing my words with a quiet resignation. I half expected him to storm out, to yell, to demand that I end things with Jake immediately. But he didn't. Instead, he said something I never expected. "Maybe we don't have to lose each other over this," he said, his eyes searching mine. Maybe we can find a way to make this work." I stared at him, stunned. I didn't understand what he was suggesting, but the thought alone left me speechless. "Alex, are you saying?" He nodded slowly. "I don't want to lose you, Liz. And I can't ignore what we've built. Everything we've been through together. I'm willing to try, whatever it takes. Even if it means sharing you." The room fell silent. My mind raced, trying to process his words. His willingness to sacrifice so much. It felt surreal, like a moment plucked from some strange dream. But the sincerity in his eyes was undeniable. He loved me enough to try and make this work, to give us a chance to find a new kind of happiness, however unconventional it might be. We spent the rest of the night talking, laying everything bare, the good, the bad, and the painful truths we'd avoided for too long. And for the first time in years, we were honest, not just with each other but with ourselves. I felt a strange sense of liberation, as if a weight I'd carried for so long had finally lifted. Alex suggested that we invite Jake over, to talk openly, to see if there was a way for us all to find peace in this situation. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. The idea that something like this could even be possible. But if there was one thing I'd learned, it was that love isn't always neat or straightforward. Sometimes it's messy, complicated, and asks us to grow in ways we never imagined. The following week, Jake came over, as nervous as I was. The three of us sat in the living room, the air thick with tension. Alex spoke first, calmly explaining his perspective, his desire to hold on to the life we'd built together while also giving me the freedom I craved. He didn't sugarcoat the difficulties, the challenges we'd undoubtedly face, but his openness made me believe it might be possible. Jake listened, nodding, and when Alex finished, he turned to me, his gaze steady. "Is this what you want?" he asked softly. I hesitated, feeling the weight of their eyes on me. But I knew my answer. "Yes," I whispered, feeling a strange sense of peace settle over me. In the months that followed, we navigated uncharted territory, stumbling through a maze of emotions, doubts, and insecurities. But we also discovered new depths of trust, communication, and honesty that brought us closer together in ways I'd never expected. There were moments of jealousy, misunderstandings, and hurt. But there were also moments of joy, laughter, and connection that reminded me why I loved both Alex and Jake in different, beautiful ways. Our lives became a balance of shared moments, separate spaces, and new dynamics that challenged and strengthened us. We weren't bound by traditional labels or expectations, but by a commitment to each other and to ourselves. In the end, we found a way to make it work, redefining what love and partnership meant for us. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't always perfect, but it was ours, a life we chose together, filled with honesty, growth, and love in all its forms. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly, deeply alive.